The artwork on the walls of my lounge is a very important part of what I enjoy, and today I'm going to give you the story behind this. I'm Jake, and welcome back to my lounge. I'm going to do a few episodes where I highlight some of the pieces of wall art and the stories behind them, and some of them are interesting personal stories, and I thought I would start off with this piece. Hopefully, if you're watching, you already know, or you've already seen this and you're already familiar with it. But here's a bit of the story behind it. So, to back up, I've been a fan of Top Gear for many years. And after a few unfortunate events, the Top Gear was discontinued, but brought back on Amazon Prime as the Grand Tour. So if you're watching this, it's because you're probably already a fan of the Grand Tour. So even though it is a comedy, though, it's actually really good automotive and cultural journalism mixed in with perpetual adolescence. So the three hosts, Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond, really have a unique chemistry, and it's fun to watch. So season 3, episode 8, this is titled International Buffoons Vacation. Now this is an episode where they each get an RV and they modify those RVs to their particular liking, and then they're going to tour through the Southwest. So James May turns his RV into a British pub on wheels, and he calls it the Rack and Pinion. So as I was watching, this episode came out, I think, in March of 2019, and as he's giving a tour of the pub, this starts at about the 5-minute mark, and something caught my eye, and I immediately connected with it and said, if that exists on the show, it's something that I can get. What's kind of funny, though, is it's Jeremy Clarkson, as he sees it, he asks, "Why have you got a drawing of 3 stroke victims on the wall?" And James May responds, "Well, that's us." And it's not the finest portrait ever drawn of people ever, but that's part of the fun backstory. So we have Google to rely on to do all of this digging. If this was 20 years ago, I would have had no resource to try and track down this picture. So I just start using the Google machine and coming up with all these creative search terms to try and discover this piece of art. And this was probably about 3 months or so after the fact that I came across an email address that to someone that it sounded like might be the person responsible for it, because I couldn't find a print for sale anywhere on the internet. So I send an email and I say, I hope I'm in the right place. I've watched the Grand Tour again last night with the episode I was just telling you about. I love the crap portrait of the 3 of them and wonder if I could get a print or 2. And I just left it. And I think it was a few days later I got a response. And it was as if the artist was as if we had spoken a few times, just jumped in and said, "Well, let me think about that. My color printer broke a few months ago, and I never bothered to replace it. I've had far too many inkjets break now. I think I'll have to think about it and see if I can find a way to get prints. But I'm very busy with work at the moment, so it might be a while." And that was the response. I'm like, okay, I guess I found the guy. And I just let him know, I'd like to get some copies of this. And it was probably 6 weeks or so. I just send a follow-up email. I hadn't heard anything. I wasn't in a big rush or anything like that. And sure enough, he found a way to get me access to these prints. And it's been kind of a fun little interaction with him. We've never spoken by phone. And I thought, and as I was preparing this episode, So we've got James May, Jeremy Clarkson, and Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond there on the end. I thought there's got to be an interesting backstory. So how did this crap portrait, which is the theme of this artist, he's done this for many people, how did this land on this TV show? And so I asked as I was preparing this. And so he tells me it was through James May. He had done a portrait of James May and put it up for auction. And James May, as he puts it, he paid a pricely sum for it. Let's see where he has it. And so James May has this other portrait of just him, which is far worse quality than this, in a gold frame in his house. And with that connection, was able to get the production crew from the Grand Tour to acquire this print and put it on the pub in the RV. So as near as I can tell, as far as the public access to this print, my connection with the artist got him to publish it on a website to where you can go and download that now. It's a lot of fun for another reason. I'm a pretty big fan of the Grand Tour and Top Gear, but my brother-in-law Chris is hands down the biggest fan and has seen every episode, many episodes, multiple times. I've seen the episode, in fact I was just watching it again last night, where they drive their Jags through Colorado, and we call it the ski car episode. They drive Jaguars down the slopes of Telluride. It's absolutely insane. There's an episode where they cross-country tour Mongolia. My son and I have watched that a couple of times. It's actually stunningly beautiful. The production value of these episodes are bar none. It's fantastic. They did an episode in Detroit, and they get some really souped-up American muscle cars and tour through Detroit, which was also very interesting to learn historical information about Detroit. And the tour that they take through there is also quite depressing in what's happened to that area economically. And there's many other episodes that are a lot of fun. But it's in fact, there's another one, and I brought this. They do a tour from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea, and they have to drive through Georgia and Azerbaijan, which is interesting. The way the geography is set up there, I mean, they're really sandwiched between Russia and like Iran and Syria. You've got these two economically stable, peaceful countries sandwiched in between these chaotic areas, and they drive through these cities. They're absolutely stunning. So I would recommend that you, if you've never seen Grand Tour, to introduce yourself to a couple of these episodes. I think you'll find them very entertaining. Now, but back to this. So Chris is a massive fan of the Grand Tour, and so I thought this would be such an incredible gift, and a gift that nobody else would have access to in the world. Now, for a big fan like Chris, this would mean a lot. So that's what's kind of part of the motivation in making all of this happen. So I got the print. I got one for Chris and one for myself, and I framed them and gave that to him shortly thereafter. And so up until that point of time in 2019, aside from the one in the TV show, I think we had the only other two prints available of it. Now, this print has now been available since then, so anybody can get it. I will share the link on how to get it, but you have to make a comment below and you have to subscribe, and I'll share the information with you. As well, I'll share this other portrait, this crap portrait that the artist made of James May, which he paid. What did he say? He said there was a phrase that he said, and I'm not seeing it here in my notes, or I've forgotten. Sounds like he paid quite a bit of money for that, and it was a charitable thing for the individual portrait of James May. But this is one of my pride and joys for that reason. You saw the entry where it was located. Originally, I'd put it there because my little bar area used to be located in a different spot, and it kind of associated with the RV on the Grand Tour being a pub. So that's the story with that one.